Hello, welcome to the video tutorial. Our topic for today's session is component variants. Till now, we have seen how we can use components, auto layouts, and how components, a master component can give us so much control, consistency over using UI design elements. Um, Today we will see how we can create variants of the components, and it helps us handle different use cases, different states for a design element. For example, whenever there is a button, you would have experienced that when you are hovering on a button, it has a different style. When you press on a button, it has a different style. The styling sort of changes, giving it a sense that now there is a mouse that's been hovering, now it's been pressed, now it's active. You would have seen there are tabs which, when you hover on a tab, it will tell you that, yeah, this one, as in, are you indicating on this one? Then when you select, then there is an active state. So there are different states for different type of design elements. All of those states, and in fact even the resolution, the different type of sizes of a particular card or a particular button, all of that can be handled using variants. So let's see today how we can create variants for the button. We have this button. Okay, now we will create variants for this, and the variants will be the different states that we want to create. Okay, first we will create different states, and then we will create normally in a button we have different type of buttons. On a website, whenever you go, let's say there are two buttons next to each other, the style of two buttons will slightly differ from each other. The one of them will be a primary button, the other can be secondary or tertiary, or the fourth button style that's required, prominence that's required, is disabled. So we will create primary, secondary, and all the states for both primary and secondary. I will select this button now. Okay, and now firstly it's an instance, so we will break the instance, we'll detach it, and we will create this as a component again. Button CTA. I'm renaming this because I already have a master component with the name button. Okay, so there is this button CTA. Now what we'll do is, this is only a component. We first need to tell this component that we want a variant. Okay, so what we'll do is, we'll go to the right hand side panel, and there is this properties. Click on this plus icon, and it will give you 4 options. For now we will do variant. Okay, so we'll click on variant, and I will do it again so we can see what is changing in the layers panel also. Okay, I'll do Ctrl Z. When I click on this plus icon, my master component has one more frame inside it. Okay, as you can see, it now has default. So now this is my main component. However, within the main component, the first variant that we have is default. It's the default name given by Figma, and the first state of a button is also default. When you land on a page, till the time you do not interact with the button, it's a default state. So this is my default state, primary. Okay, this is state. Okay, the next variant here, which we'll add when we get there. So I will click on this plus icon to add a variant here. Okay, so I'll click here, and now this is my hover state. We will change the styling of this button slightly so that it tells the user that now this is the button that's being hovered. So we have slightly lighter color, and now I will add an effect here on the effect section, plus icon and a drop shadow. Okay, now we cannot see the drop shadow, so what we can do is, I'll give a color to this main components area so that we can see what's happening with our shadow. I'll click on this plus icon, and it's a white color, and now we can see. We can make changes to it, but I think we're good. This is fine. We need one more variant, so I will select this. You can select either this or this. If I select this and add a variant, the properties of this will be retained in the new variant, and same for this. So let's go with this. We want to make it slightly darker. This is pressed state. Now you have clicked on it. Okay, so we will change the color to slightly darker. Okay, now we want the first variant, as in the properties of the default one. So we created a variant out of that. Now this will be selected state. Now this selected state is one, it's same as this. I will just add a stroke to it so that it calls out that this is a selected state. Okay, now these are my primary 4 buttons with different states. Now we'll create a secondary button. Firstly, I will make this horizontal. It's an auto layout horizontal. Okay, now I don't want the auto layout, otherwise I'll not be able to arrange my secondary button. So I'll click on plus and I want it, and I want this at the bottom. Now as you can see, when I click dragged it, this is an independent component. However, that's not something that we will do. We need to make it part of this component area, and hence we will put it back here. Okay, now this by default it's saying it's state 5. It's not state 5, it's state default. Now we can see this, the properties and values of this variant are conflicting. Change the applied values. Now this is default state, this is also default state. That is the reason why it is giving. However, this is default state of secondary. So what we'll do is, we will select this main section and we will tell this properties that we want one more variant, and that variant is button type. Okay, the default value would be, this one is a primary. Okay, this is primary. This one will change to, now okay, now before we do that, as you can see, the state and type for this first one and these two is exactly the same, right? Default primary. Now when we change this to secondary, the message here is gone, because now the properties are different. So my secondary button will also have a secondary color. Okay, so let's say this is my secondary color. Normally your color palette will be defined in the design system, and that is the reason why you will not have to define it again and again. But for now, till the time we are learning variants, we will use color with a free color picker. Okay, so this is next is okay, one second, not here. I will take this. Okay, so that we give a similar shadow and a dark color treatment. Then pressed, we'll click on plus and we'll create a variant for secondary. We will change color for all of them, and we will also change the name for all of them. Otherwise we will have this message throughout. Secondary, 1, 2, 3, select all 3 of them and click here secondary. So now all of them are secondary. Let's change the styling. This is lighter, then darker, and then the same color. The reason why I used a black border there with low opacity, so that I do not have to change the color of the border all the time. Okay, we can create a tertiary also, so that we can see the complete difference between them. So this is my tertiary. Okay, we'll create a variant of these 3. As you can see, you can select multiple and create a variant. I'll do this again. I've selected one, shift and click on second, shift and click on third, plus. So I have all 3 variants at once. Now all 3 are already selected. I will change the name to tertiary. Okay, first and last are my same fill color, so I will change. Okay, tertiary is normally a button that is not filled. It's normally a button that has a stroke. So what we'll do is, we will pick the same color. Okay, and I'll remove it from fill. I'll add it to stroke. Sorry, I'll add it to stroke. My color, font color will also be the same. Okay, so I'll select all of this. How you can select an element which is inside a group or a frame? Press command, tip, shortcut. Okay, press command and click on the text. Now press, I'm holding the command key. Now press shift and click. Okay, so now here I'll change this color, and we need to change, we need to switch these color from fill to stroke. So I'll remove this. I'm moving this to stroke, selecting this color, removing, adding it to stroke. Now, okay, I already have the stroke. Okay, now because this is a tertiary button which only has the border, okay, we'll align it. We should perhaps add a white color fill to it. Why? Because if you add this button on an element which has certain sort of backdrop, then the visibility of your as in there will be no visibility of the button. Also this depends on what is the style that you want to define. Okay, so currently we will go with a fill color. Now I have this primary, secondary, tertiary and all states. So this is my component that's ready. Now what we'll do is we will try using a button and change it to different states. Now let's say this is the card that we created last time. Okay, first I will detach it because it's an instance. It will not allow me to add a CTA or add any layer to it. So now this is not a component. It's as in now this is not an instance. It's detached. So I can click here and press option key and drag it out. If I copy paste it, it will copy the component and create a component. See, it will create a component. So never do a Control C Control V for these. You can click option or alt and click drag it outside, or the way to do this is that you can go to assets section. On your left hand side section there is layers and assets. Click on assets and you will see the components on your local file, on your own file. So I have this button CTA, it's the same name. I will bring it here. Okay, now let's try and add it here. Okay, because it's an auto layout, it got adjusted on its own. Now we will change this to secondary, tertiary. Okay, now let's say I have 6 cards. I'll copy this 1, 2, okay, 3 cards, and one of them has a primary button. So all you have to do is just go to this component and change it to primary. It's that simple. So when you have defined in this case, let's say a button with their different styles, you can simply use them by calling them in your design. Okay, I'll remove these 3. Now let's try the same thing with an input field. Let's create an input field. Okay, so we'll start with a frame. Okay, 400 by 80, and then I'll call this an input field. Input field has a label. Okay, I'll say this is label text smaller. Light. Okay, and this is on top of this. Now we'll group them together. Okay, now I need text inside the frame. This is my place holder text. Okay, so we have this frame, as in which is the input field box. We have this label. I think the label is too small. We have a placeholder text. Okay, we will create this an auto layout first. Okay, and now we will give it a fixed width. My line height is 120%. Everything is fine. Now let's give it a proper spacing, 12 and 24, or it should be 12 24. No, this thing, we'll keep a 12 and 12 spacing. Okay, now all of this selected, we will first create it an auto layout. Okay, and now we want everything left aligned, as we have seen in the auto layouts. The spacing should be less. We reduce the spacing further. Now this becomes our input field block. Here we have one more thing which is missing, which is the message that we have at the bottom when something goes wrong. Okay, so this is your, let's say, error message or supporting message. It need not always come at the time of error. It can also say that your password needs these many characters and so on. Okay, so input field, I'm creating a component of this. Now it's my component. Now let's start creating variants. We'll also give a little curvature to this. Okay, now one more thing. If we place it on a white background, it will start to blend. So it requires a stroke, not this, the whiter portion. We have added a stroke. Okay, and now I think that's it. Okay, so let's start creating the variant. Okay, I've selected this input field component. On properties, I will click on the plus icon and I've added a variant. Now we'll click on this plus icon so that we have a second variant. Now I'll select firstly this should be state. The first one will be default, second one will be filled. Okay, you need not have this message here, so it's not there. For filled text, let's say the text will be darker. Okay, so because now you know that the text is filled, we will make this further lighter so that you know that it's placeholder. Now moving on to next state, I'll click on this and now we have state which is success. So in case there is a validation, okay, we will say this with we will say this with a green border. Okay, so I have this, it has a validation and we will try saying it with a green border. Now error message. Okay, so we have one more variant. We will call this error state, and now we will bring back the support message from okay, and this field has an error. Now how do we say this? One with the help of a red border, saying that oops, something is wrong, and with a text that is also red. We can have the same color. Now let's see how we can use this in our design. Okay, so this is my input field with all different states. Even in the default state, I do not need a supporting message. If you need, you can have it. If you don't need, you can just hide it. Okay, so let's bring this card. I'll bring a copy of this card. Okay, now let's say share your email ID, and there is some two-liner text. Okay, then we have an email ID. So here we have this email ID input field. We can either bring it from here, but we will go to the assets panel, and then we will bring from here. I have this placeholder here. I'll just bring it inside this card. Why is it not taking it? Here, and here it is. Now why is it taking a lot of space? Because all of this is fixed width. What we should do this is, it's hug. The outermost has a width. Okay, we need to create an auto layout for this. Auto layout. Okay, now this can be fixed width, but everything inside it should have fill container. Okay, so then this thing should be fill container. Okay, we'll change this to fill container and let's see what happens. Now nothing happens because inside it, is it filled? Is it fixed? Yes, that is the reason why everything should be fill container. So then what happens is it will adapt to your it gets adapted to your card size. Now this is your email ID. Example at abc.com. Okay, now let's say you have to give a use case which shows you have to give a use case which says that there is an error. Okay, so you just have to change this from this to error, and your card automatically will adjust because it's an auto layout, and you do not have to create anything like this multiple times. So that's how you can use input field, button, and many more components using variants. We will also see how we can create it for different resolutions. So this is for button that you can use for different cards for input fields, and that's how you can use a component variant. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.